Sorry, I cut you off, but talk to us about Kgfj, man. Let's break them down.
Kgfj was a small station right there on Wilshire. And it was on Wilshire for a while. It was on La Brea for a while. And I grew up on Kgfj. Kgfj was the station that brought out all the DJs to all the sock hops back in the day. We grew up, we had a ton of sock hops. We had sock hops was parties you had in the gym. You had to take your shoes off because back then nobody wore tennis shoes to a party. Everybody wore hard-soled shoes, and them cheap-ass hard-soled shoes from Tom McCann and Kenny's. If you try to dance, you're gonna mark up the floor. You know, the floor would look like an intersection after a street takeover. So they made us take our shoes off and we danced in our socks. They called them sock hops. And Kgfj was a major provider of sock hops throughout the city. They go to all the parks. Hunter Hancock, Roland Bynum, different DJs would be at these different parks on Fridays and Saturday nights, and that's how they kept in touch with the teens. Kgfj was around before Soul Train. That's all we had with Kgfj, and it was a R&B and soul station. It was small. If you lived in LA and drove to Long Beach, you might miss that time again once you pass, I don't know, Artesia, okay? Because it was not a big, powerful station at all, but it was heavily influenced. It was a big influence in the city. It also was one of the first stations before Kday to play hip hop. Now, that I know for a fact because with Greg Mack, he said they were the first one to go 24 hours, but Kgfj was the first one to play hip hop, period. They had a nice little section of hip hop because Kgfj was playing hip hop before Grant got to California. I changed my, I was advertising everywhere. I was buying K-Ace, Cute 102, Kgfj later on because Kgfj had that hip hop thing. In fact, Wrecking Crew was working with Kgfj on the street team before we started working with Kday. That's how far back we go. So we had a relationship with the community relations director. His name was Jose Jesus Sweet, and he would take us around to different schools, Verbum Day and stuff like that. And we do all their dances under the Kgfj banner because they didn't have a DJ no more. So we became the DJs for Kgfj, and then Greg Mack came to town, and then we started working for Kday. So yes, I have a fond memory of Kgfj. My boy Kevin Fleming, who just passed last year, was the program director, and we had a great relationship. And it was our station for a while with Kgfj.
Wow, was it mainly black radio hosts?
Yeah, it was all black. It was all black.
Oh, that's dope. Oh man, I would love the stories behind that. Damn, I'm a
the
radio nerd, bro.
The one guy, the hottest DJ on the station, always said, "Burn, baby, burn." When a new record came out, "Burn, baby, burn." His name was Magnificent Montague, and doing the 66 rides.
Yeah.
Okay. Doing the 66 rides, he got fired. I'm at 66. I was 9. I didn't understand why this man got fired. He had to come on the radio station and apologize for saying "burn, baby, burn." He had been saying that for years. That was not something he started during the riots. But because the rioters adapted that slogan, they held him responsible for it. And he lost his job behind that. Had to apologize. Come up with something different.
Wow.
Magnificent Montague. That's right.
Yeah, I know half the story. I didn't know the other half, that he said it all the time. I thought it was just something he said to get people riled up.
Time. He said it all. That was his line. Back then, DJs had lines. DJs had their signature sayings. Okay, just like Don Cornelius when he rapped up a Soul Train, love, peace, and soul. That was his thing. When Stevie Wonder bought KGLH, kindness, love, joy, and happiness. Everybody had that was a sign of DJs. That's how they branded themselves back in the day. And for them to, fire him or make him apologize, I thought as a kid was ridiculous. But nonetheless, that's how the game goes.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about radio a little bit because I am definitely a radio nerd / student. I love everything about it from the beginning to what we hear now. But how does an artist, or did an artist back in your day, keep in touch with how many times their song was played on the radio and where around the country it was played? Because you guys got paid off that, correct? It was like streams nowadays. You got paid on how many times your record got played. Is that correct?
Yeah, but you didn't. No way for you to count. No way for you to count. If you were in heavy rotation, that means you might have got played. A heavy rotation, you could get played once an hour. That's considered heavy rotation for the most part. Based on once an hour, in a 24-hour day, you can get played 24 times 7 days a week, and that would determine your BMI. Okay. Now, everything done back then was done manually. They had to write that shit down on a log. They had to log in everything they played. They turned it into the program director, and then they had to submit it to BMI, ASCAP, whatever the case may be, and that's how you got your money. But it was no way if you worked at a college station, you might got 1 million plays. Nobody really paid for that. They had a few of them that did, but for the most part, it was a lot of stations were they were I'm gonna say unlicensed, but they were just so small. Nobody really chipped on them. You might not have got paid from your secondary stations. There was a lot of stations in different areas. Like I tell you about the cornfields. You might not have got no cornfield money. You might not have got cornfield money because the station was so small. They might have spun you a couple times an hour and only logged you for once. This is when the games were being played, Doc. There was no way to know how many times your record got played in any particular market until you started getting booked for gigs. That was a good sign to see how well people was receiving your product. If you got phone calls was back then was the number one way to determine an artist's popularity. If somebody gave a record a spin and the phone lines lit up, we might have something here. Okay. And that was a major way. And that's the same thing they did when they had what's that video show back in the day? Video jukebox.
Oh, the box, yeah.
Yeah, video jukebox. That was the way they would do the same thing. Only they would let people just pay for the plays on the show, and that's how the whole thing got fucked up. But radio was difficult back in the day, man, because Mondays was record day. Records came out on Tuesdays, but Monday was record promo day, and you had to go to the radio